This is SimCenter.
Hey everybody, welcome back to SimCenter. I'm Kevin Kreppen. I'm really excited about today's interview with the founder and creator of GSPro, Davor Bogavac. You know him as Treaty on Discord and the Simulator Golf Tour. Now, before I get to the interview, let me just ask you a hypothetical. In your day-to-day life, all the choices of software that you have, you've chosen specific ones for your phone or your tablet, your PC at work or at home, either because you've picked the software that's the best or what works best for you. Now, imagine if I said to you, in a year's time from now, you can no longer use any of that software. It's not going to be an option. Well, that hypothetical was a stark reality for the online golf tour in the fall of 2019, when TrackMan, who had recently purchased Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf, made the announcement that in a year's time, fall of 2020, anybody who was licensing that software would no longer have that as an option. Well, Davor was a member of that online golf tour and set out to solve a problem that he anticipated in a year's time. Now, the story is really interesting. It actually leads to what we know of as GSPro today, but that wasn't his original intention, to try to create something that has grown into what it is today. His goal is actually much more simple than that. So you will hear a couple times in the interview me thanking Davor for being the first guest on the show. That was the intention, but due to some technical issues, that just didn't happen. But we did debut on the 21st with TechBud, and I think everybody would agree that was really an incredible first guest to have on our show. So without any more technical delays or issues, I bring you Davor's story, where you've heard the expression, necessity is the mother of all invention. I think you'll find the same thing with his story. Here's my interview with Treaty. No better place to start than the man that kind of gave us a venue and an outlet to play our simulator golf. All of us have these very expensive launch monitors. We've invested a lot in our home simulator. And it was roughly somewhere in the September-August range of 2019, if I'm correct, where TrackMan made the business decision to purchase Perfect Parallels, Perfect Golf outright. Now, they were nice enough to say to the community, anybody that was paying for a license, you guys have roughly about a year. But in that time frame, around September of 2020, they were going to take that software and make it proprietary specifically for TrackMan users. Kind of a shock to the community. And what was your initial feeling when they first talked about that?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, the first time they gave us the message, it was everything's going to be business as usual. So I think that most of us kind of felt like, yeah, fine, whatever, that was fine. A couple of months later, though, they told everybody that it's not going to be any more Perfect Golf for those of us that we signed on, and we knew that there was an end at the horizon. So I think that most of us felt bad about, you know how it works, right? You make an investment, you build up a simulator, and all of a sudden you don't have a simulator software. And for reasons we maybe don't need to go into right now, TGC was not an option for a lot of us.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with the software. I think software is great, but there are other elements to it. And so that it was a sad day. Losing the software, but also, of course, the community and all the people that we have kind of you get to know over time, and yeah.
Well, and that's a huge point, because even if there was another viable piece of software, it's everything else about home simulation that is built up around what the online golf tour was before. For me, I used to have a full swing golf simulator, which at the time it's all I knew and I enjoyed it. But it wasn't until I discovered what the community around that was built around Perfect Golf and the online golf tour, until I realized how much that competition and the community around that was important. So even if there was another piece of software out there to replace Perfect Golf, it was how much infrastructure was built into the online golf tour that I think everybody was kind of in shock, like, wait, what are we going to do? Because it's one component of the software and then the competition end of it. So What was your initial impression of, okay, I have this launch monitor, what am I going to do? And I think we can get into where we are now with GSPro from what you did initially.
Yeah, so this was it was a process, right? So I've been programming things, and I'm on my base education and my work is around electronics design. So I'm a system architect for semiconductors, but I've done software all my life. So just for fun, I thought that, well, at least I need a driving range for my golf simulator in my garage. So how hard can it be? So that's actually how I started. I had trajectory algorithms, and I opened up Unity and started programming and built the driving range for myself. That was basically how everything started. I had absolutely no intentions of building what we have later on built. This is kind of, as many other things in life, I think that you kind of stumble into it. It's not a plan, but you kind of stumble into it, and one thing gives one thing, and then people start asking for it. And so I think that I built my driving range, and then I used Perfect Parallels golf courses, which are not theirs, but they were designed by other people, like, for example, me. So I used a course that I designed, and I showed it to some people, and yeah, that's how it started.
So what I find mind-blowing, for everybody has their own talent, their career, whatever they're into, but to me, all of us, software touches all of our lives in some capacity, whether it be Microsoft Office or Google products, whatever it is. To me, the mind-blowing thing for what you set out to do, initially for a driving range, was to have this piece of software that was integral to our entertainment kind of taken away, and you built something initially just for a driving range that has grown into a full-blown program that is already by far better than any of the physics and graphics that are out there. Did you ever initially think about, when you're making the driving range, it was going to grow to what it is right now and continuing every day to get better?
I think this is yet another one of those things that many of us can relate to. I mean, if a lot of the things and the projects that we take on and that we do in life, we do just because we have no clue how much work it is, right? So if somebody would have told me and I would have known where this is going, I wouldn't have done it. There's thousands and thousands of hours spent, which, yeah. So actually, the reason I did it was because I didn't have any plan of doing anything like this. And that's number one. Number two is I had no clue how much work it was. This is one of those things where it's an insane amount of hours spent. And this is not something you would do if you knew about it up front, I think, at least.
Sure. And that brings me to kind of the next point of, initially this was just you, if I'm not mistaken, that doing the driving range, expanding it a little bit beyond to use already built courses. I think there probably is a little bit of a conversion or some way to tie that in. But now you've brought on, I don't know how many people, you can get into that, but how much does it have the software developed now that you have a collaboration of people to take some of the workload, brainstorm a little bit, take some community ideas, and implement those into now a full-fledged working piece of software?
Oh my God! So I think it was, you could say it was done in steps, in the sense that I first had to prove that I could do the game. So the physics and everything else that was around that. Starting off using actually Perfect Parallel tool design courses that were designed by the community, by myself and by others. So that was kind of step number one. Step number two was to move away from anything that had to do with Perfect Parallel and do our own designed courses with our own tools and so on and so forth. And this is where the community kind of came in big time, because there's absolutely no doubt about that if this would have been up to me only, this would never have happened. I mean, I did the gaming software by myself, but that wasn't enough, right? Because Perfect Parallel TrackMan would have never allowed us to use the courses the way that was done initially. So if the guys wouldn't have stepped up, the design team, then I mean there would be no GSPro. That is absolutely no doubt about that.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, the process was basically you had to come up with the basis for the software. What GSPro started as with a drive range, expanding to an early alpha of a playable game with courses that existed. That infrastructure obviously had to develop, implement different physics. I think early on you guys called them recipes as far as trying how a ball reacts on different surfaces. And that's, I'm sure, a constant tweak in development. Initially, you guys borrowed the old perfect parallel courses, converted them. I think there's a process that you guys had to convert those, so there wasn't as much work to scrap all that effort and time into every course to sort of convert them. And then there was a full-blown transition to a completely new build engine. Is that all basically the process that happened over that first year and a half?
Yeah. That is a simplification of it, but yeah, in essence, it was three steps. It started off initially using the Perfect Parallel courses as is. I mean, the courses that was designed by community and that we kind of felt that we owned. But yeah, I don't know what the lawyers would say about that. But in any case, we then later on moved on to convert those courses into a newer version of Unity, and then as a final third step was scrap everything and then build design tools and courses from scratch with zero content from anything that existed prior.
Yeah, and I definitely am looking forward to having on TechBud and some other designers to speak about, from their standpoint, the tools that they wanted. They had been building, probably going back to Lynx Golf. I mean, I know Lynx had an initial Arnold Palmer course designer built in, and there was a whole community for that. And I'm sure some of those designers, and I believe actually the designers of Perfect Parallel, came from Lynx Golf before they did Perfect Parallel. So was there a set of tools that the designer said, not only do we have to be able to build courses, but these are the tools that we want to be able to build into our platform when we make courses? Was that a long list? Was it something specific that they needed to have?
Yeah, it was. There are a couple of key people that we are going to allow on the show to speak about this, because they can speak about it much more intelligently than I can, because I haven't had much to do with the development of those tools, a little bit. But I think that what is special about what has been done for the design tools is the people that have been involved in this have always valued the artistic creativity, being able to have absolutely zero constraints and design whatever it is that you want to design. And this is how these tools have been made. That means that anybody can click a little bit in TGC and create a course, because that tool is made for a different purpose, from a slightly different angle. The GSPro tool set is made for professional designers, if you can say, but people that are very, very experienced, right? That want to have no constraints. So it's kind of a different way of looking at solving problems. So the tools are brand new, and the people that have been involved in developing them, especially one of the guys, they have, I don't know, 20 years of experience designing courses. So this is not like me starting to learn how to code games, right? These guys have been at it for a long time. They know what they're doing.
Right, and the work shows. I mean, this is just a still. We're recording this right around the Players' Championship, and this is just a still from the Island at 17, and just the latest release of the detail in this. And this, like I said, is a still image, but the detail, the reflection of the water, the skies, just spectacular. In just the most recent update, it really is amazing and impressive what you guys have done.
Yeah, and for that particular project and that course, I can take zero credit. This was 100% done by the guys, and again, as I said, without what they have done, there would be no GSPro. And if you only knew what we have planned, and there are so many really, really amazing things in the pipeline. It's just a matter of, are we going to survive under this way of working, right? Because everybody's working like there's no tomorrow. So we'll see.
You guys are basically working more than two jobs: your career and then this part-time job, which I know is now a paid-for software, but it's still an incredible amount of work, and we all benefit from it. I think I can speak for everybody to say thank you so much for what you guys are doing and continue to do. For me personally, my brother and I live about 10 hours away, and I've gotten to play hundreds of rounds of golf with my brother through GSPro and the online golf tour, or the simulator golf tour. So thank you guys. We look forward to what's coming out soon. If you have a couple minutes, I'd love to do real quick rapid fire with you. Let people get to know a little bit about you beyond just what you're doing for us with GSPro. All right, let's get started. Davor, you were born where?
I'm born in Sweden.
And that's where you live now, correct?
On the East Coast.
All right, then. Your favorite real course that you've played?
There has to be TPC San Antonio.
Okay, very nice. Sim course. Now, I know you have designed some courses. Do you have a favorite that is your go-to if you're going to play a round of golf?
I would say now I've only played the TPC Sawgrass once, so that's probably going to become the new favorite. But if I had to choose one of the ones that I've played before, Castle Heights.
Castle Heights. What country is that in?
No, I think that's a fantasy course.
Okay.
I thought the question was GSPro course, right? Or Sim course?
Yeah, I guess Sim course, but yeah, any of them.
Then because in real course that's TPC San Antonio. That's the best course I've ever played. I'm not one of those guys that have traveled the world, right, and played everywhere. So.
Right, and that's kind of the advantage of sim golf is we get to play some of the best venues in the world and not have to pay $500 at Pebble Beach. From Sweden, favorite golfer? I assume that would be one of the famous Swedish golfers.
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Stenson, of course.
Henrik Stenson, 2016 Open champion, right? Royal Troon?
Yeah, I think that his biggest achievement was the FedEx Cup in, when was that, 13?
I think 13, yeah. So 2016 Open.
Then he won the Open in whenever that was.
2009
against
players
Phil
as well.
Mickelson. That was an epic battle.
Other notable Swedish golfers, Annika, of course, and Jesper. I think he's got a couple Opens as well. Favorite food? You're going to go grab a bite to eat? What's your favorite food?
Throw some kind of meat on the barbecue. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm not one of those guys that want to eat out in expensive restaurants. I think that the most important part is the company, right? So whatever, put it on the barbecue, have some good people and a few beers, and that's it.
Absolutely. All right, we'll end it with a couple golf questions. Your favorite yardage, your least favorite yardage?
Yeah, I think that my favorite yardage is the one I try to lay up to is 95 meters. And anything around 50 meters where you have to do like a half or three-quarter wedge swing, that typically gets my hands shaking. So that I really hate that. Yeah. Whenever I have that yardage left, that's considered to be a mistake. Don't know why, because it's mental, and this is one of those things, right? It shouldn't be a problem, but it is. It is.
All right, Davor. Last question. Your screen name, Discord, maybe elsewhere, Treetee, Tretee. Is there a story behind that? How did that come about?
Yeah, I think the story behind that is, again, pretty common for a lot of people. You join Discord and it asks you for a username, and you type in one, it says it's taken, and you type in another one, it's taken. And then you kind of get sick of it and just make up something ridiculous that you know it's not going to be taken. That's how it came about.
Well, at least your name is something I can actually say on the air. There are some that maybe aren't I might just use their first name when we have them on the show.
I try to keep it pronounceable.
Well, Davor, again, I just want to thank you.
That's how it came about.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank you for coming on the show, being our very first guest here on SimCenter. Thank you for everything you and the rest of the community are doing to build this software and give us a place to play. So thank you. We look forward to having you on the show again sometime down the road.
Thanks. Pleasure being here.
I know, right? Kind of hard to believe that the GSPro that we know today really just started out as trying to create a basic driving range. Okay, I said earlier that I was going to have an announcement. So starting this Saturday before Masters Week, we're going to debut SimCenter tournament previews. This is going to be a preview for the Simulator Golf Tour for the next week's event. We're going to tell you about the course, the conditions as far as fairways and greens, the pin locations, and when wind is introduced into the game, we'll tell you about that as well. We'll give you some video of some of the key holes as far as maybe some birdie opportunities or some pin locations you might want to be a little bit more careful of. Again, that debuts the Saturday before Masters Week. All right, just about wrapping up here, but before I go, let me tell you a real quick story. So when I used to be a director at the Golf Channel, I would work with Brian Hammonds on Golf Central. And Brian would end the Golf Centrals by saying something to the effect of, with his co-host, for, say, Jennifer Mills, I'm Brian Hammonds. Until next time, keep it in the short grass. Well, we know in the GSPro world, if you're in the light rough or the fairway, you're still going to have a good chance to kind of go at the pins and make birdies. You get into that deep rough, though, we know that's no joke. You're not going to have many opportunities for birdie, and you're probably not going for too many par fives in two. So to wrap up today's show, I'm going to borrow a little bit of Brian's tagline and say, I really want to thank Davor Bogavac for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. And that just about wraps it up for this edition of SimCenter. Thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, keep it out of the deep rough.